Hi everyone, it's Ileana and I have a card to share with you today. This is using some Concord 9th stamps. Pretty much everything but one die is Concord 9th. So what I'm going to be using is the stamp set that's called Joy with the coordinating die. I'm also using Love You Mean It stamp set, and I'll be using these stitched squares from Lawn Fawn. For the inks, I'm going to be using some Alta Nu, the Frayed Leaf, the what is this? Forest Glades, and the Evergreen. I'm also going to be using some Lawn Fawn ink and in the color Lobster and my black onyx ink. I'm going to be using a couple of templates that you can find on my website. I'll be sure to add the link in the description below. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this template into the MISTI, and I am going to be using the circle just as a guide. These it's like two circles just so that I could do my wreath. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to line up at least one line, one part of the circle on each one of the lines, since it's kind of two wonky circles. And I put a little bit of repositionable adhesive on the back of my cardstock, and I'm just lining it up with the squares that are on the template. Once that's adhered down, the reason why I use repositionable is because I don't want it to tear my template. And so I am using the mid shade of green to do my circle. And then I'm going to take the little evergreen branch that's in the Joy stamp set, and I'm just going to line it up. I'm going to do my best to try to line it up so that when you turn the template, that the branch will fit into each other. And right now you'll see that the branches are a little far apart, but that's okay because we're going to move that stamp later and fill in the gaps there. I did speed this up quite a bit. And I'm just moving my stamp just a little bit so that when it rotates, it fits nicely in between the gaps. And the color that I had picked was a little too light, and so I switched over to the freshly cut grass from Lawn Fawn. And it was a nice variation to the other green. I didn't want it all to be one color. I thought it would be too bland, and so I picked a different shade. It still looks a little flat to me, so I wanted to add a little bit of a different color, not another green, but just so that it looks a little bit different. The evergreen from from Alta Nu was still too dark, but when you do second generation stamping, it looks a little bluish and a bluish green. And so what I did was I just stamped off on a scratch piece of paper, and instead of flipping the lid open, I just slid the paper out and just let the lid fall, and it helped it go super fast, so you didn't have to open the lid all the way. And now that that's complete, I'm going to bring in a different branch, and it's from the Love You Mean It stamp set. I'm positioning it just a little bit outside of the wreath just so that you can see the branches. And I'm also doing the second generation stamping. If you don't want it to be so planned, you can always use an acrylic block and randomly place your little branches in there, but I didn't really care. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove it from the template, and I'm going to use my transparency to place the Joy. At first I thought I would just stamp it on a piece of scratch paper or a piece of a scrap and then just cut it out, but then I just decided to stamp it directly onto the wreath. I'm just using my black ink to ink it up, and I'm going to stamp it multiple times because it's such a solid stamp and I really want it to be really, really dark. And once I triple stamp it, I'm going to clean off my stamp set. And I didn't heat set it, and I think that's probably why I had a little bit trouble adhering my letters, which we'll get to in a little bit. I'm just going to test them out. I did cut it out. I did cut out the joy from some glitter cardstock, and I'm putting the second part of the sentiment on there, and it's to the world, I believe. And I'm just using it to using my template to line everything up. I'm double checking to make sure it's straight, and we're good to go. And I'm going to be using the lobster ink again. I pulled out some black foam adhesive just so that you couldn't see it underneath the gold letters. And I'm going to adhere my letters. This is the part where I should have heat set the joy, the black, because my letters end up falling off, and I end up using liquid adhesive to put my letters back on. See, they just popped off. I'm just going to use my multi-matte medium because it dries matte, and in case that any of the adhesive squishes out, it won't be noticeable. And I'm just using my tweezers to place my letters back in place. I've matted it with a small piece of black cardstock just so that it brings in that black that's behind the glitter joy. And I've mounted it onto some real red cardstock from Stampin' Up. I'm taking the 3 little holly berries and I'm just randomly stamping them around the wreath. I tried to do an odd number, and I thought I would add some of these little gems to the berries. I didn't really care for it. I wanted the joy to be the focal point. And that is the card for today. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching my video. Be sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you already aren't. Head on over to the blog and sign up for the newsletter there too. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.